Idaho Governor Brad Little, Republican, signed legislation on Friday to allow executions by firing squads on Friday, making it the fifth state in the country to allow this method. Little said in a letter to State House Speaker Mike Moyle, Republican, that he chose to sign the bill because of his support for Idaho being able to successfully carry out the death penalty when necessary for crimes that are heinous. For the people on death row, a jury convicted them of their crimes and they were lawfully sentenced to death, Little said. It is the responsibility of the state of Idaho to follow the law and ensure that lawful criminal sentences are carried out. He said his support for the death penalty is also why he signed the bill last year to help the state obtain the chemicals needed for lethal injection. The state has struggled to acquire the drugs necessary to carry out lethal injections as some drug companies have prevented their products from being used in executions. One scheduled execution in Idaho was delayed because of scarcity. Little said he has not given up on Idaho acquiring the chemicals it needs, and he believes the legislation he signed last year expands options. Four other states, Mississippi, Utah, Oklahoma, and South Carolina, have legalized firing squads spurred on by the drug shortage. South Carolina's law allowing them has been paused amid a court battle over its constitutionality. The bill Little signed last Friday, the bill Little signed Friday, directs the director of the Idaho Department of Corrections to determine within 5 days of a death warrant being issued whether lethal injection is available. If the director is not certified that it is available, fails to file a certification, or determines that it is not available, a firing squad will be used. The law will go into effect on July 1st. So I've said before, I'm against the death penalty, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't believe the federal government should have the right to sentence people to death. I'm not a fan of state sanctioned murder, even if it's people who commit heinous crimes, whatever that means, because Little doesn't define what they are. But really think about this. When you have a scarcity of a product, right, which are the chemical that's used for lethal injections, you don't say to the federal government, "Hey, we need some more money so we can fund this. We need to, I don't know, rebuild our infrastructure." Something having to do with figuring out why is there a shortage of this thing that we have used for so long. Instead of trying to solve that, you would rather change the way in which the death penalty is carried out to this system where a person is taken out back like a wild animal and blasted with bullets by a group of people. I mean, this reminds me of something you'd hear about out of Saudi Arabia. And I almost, because, I get most people are pro death penalty, but does it really make sense that in a country that is supposed to be humane, because again, lethal injection is still something I'm not in favor of, but at the very least, it's a person sitting down, they get something put in them, and then that's it. Um, Even with the chair, I mean, that was, you get zapped, but it's still like a person maintains a little bit of dignity. But just taking someone out back, firing them with, from with a bunch of individuals that also work within the correctional system, I just find it to be barbaric. And I can't even, we talked about how one of my reasons for being against the death penalty is that a lot of times are not, in some instances you've had people who were convicted falsely and instances where people were put to death for crimes they didn't commit. And that's something that you're only ever going to make sure doesn't happen again if you just get rid of it altogether. Um, but the fact that several states have enacted this policy, and it's all in the same mantra of being tough on crime. We've talked before about how tough on crime doesn't actually discourage people from committing crimes. So they'll still go out and commit heinous acts. They'll just try not to get caught. Like criminals are going to break the law one way or the other. But I, I just can't believe that in a civilized society, when someone commits whatever a heinous crime is to him, it could be, I'm assuming, a homicide. Maybe it's something else. They have, not only are they themselves going to be killed, but they're going to be killed in a more violent manner than anything we've ever seen before in the whole. This is crazy. So 5 states have this in effect now. South Carolina's version is up for debate, and hopefully the debate swings in the favor of people who are against it. Really, I'm just reminded of how a lot of people, when they, like, he's talking about, we lawfully have chosen to carry so, and I love how it's coded in this rhetoric of like, we are doing what the people want. Well, the people want someone to be put to death for a crime, and it doesn't say anywhere which way in which you're supposed to do it. But also, it just goes back to my problem that, like, it's lawful to take the life of another person, and it's even more legal to just go, well, we're out of chemicals, so instead of trying to figure out ways in which we can get some more, let's just take people out back and blast them over and over again. It's crazy. Like, I had to double check this story. This is really in America? I hope that someday people, I don't want to say wake up, but I hope in the case of the death penalty that eventually we get to a point where a sizable majority of people oppose it. Because, like, I get where you say, oh, this person did this bad crime and they should be punished. But allowing the government to murder people is going to have bigger ramifications than just, oh, they got rid of this one bad person. So I know my statements will probably be misinterpreted because that's usually what happens in the grand scheme of these debates. Um, I, I just can't believe in the 21st century, when there's a lack of access to a chemical, the solution by not even just one state but multiple states is, anyone here firing squad? That's crazy.